today's stuff, just so that you guys know where we're going, today's now we're going to write equations. So I'm going to show you, like I've been doing the last couple of times, I'm going to show you how a few different ways, and then ultimately it's up to you to decide how you like to do it best. The section starts on page 98, just so that you know where we're at. And what they're going to ask you to do is they're going to write equations of lines. There's a couple different forms that I need to give you first. Yesterday we referred to one as the slope-intercept form. Do you remember what slope-intercept form was yesterday? Y equals mx plus b, which is the way most of you guys like to graph these. Okay? Which one was the slope again? M. And which one was the intercept? And which intercept was it? The y-intercept. Good. So I'm just re-putting this up there from yesterday. That's what we talked about, slope and the y-intercept there, as far as what they're going to give you. This is the form that you're going to leave all your answers in. You're going to get it to this equation or this format. And the main reason why we use this format is because of these things right here. The graphing calculator is why we always set it up as y equals mx plus b, because that button right here in the corner that says y equals, that's how you graph with the graphing calculator. So as far as the different forms go, I would say 90% of the time we use this format because of the graphing calculator nowadays. Not that we're going to graph them today, because all we're doing is coming up with equations of lines, but that's what we use because of the graph. All right? So that's the first form. The second form is called point-slope form. When I was your age, I had a teacher that said, depends on what they give you. If they give you this information, then you have to use this form. Well, I'm going to tell you now, you don't need to use this form if you don't like it. Whichever way you like to do it, please do it that way. Get good at the one way versus the other, and then use whichever method you want. For this particular thing, the x1 and the y1 are your points, and the slope still is the letter. Which letter is slope? M. Right. Okay, so that's still your slope. And this one, with this one, is your ordered pair. The other x and the y do not change. They stay there in the format. And then eventually what happens with this one is we have to do a couple different things. We got to distribute, and we have to add or subtract over, and we still get it as y equals. Okay? So I'm going to do some problems both ways. I want you guys to decide which way you like to do it best, and then do it that way. Okay? All right. Those are the two forms that you're going to use. The first types of problems are going to look like this. Here's a nice picture. It's going to have that going there. Let's say that. 2, 3, and say that. And they're going to have this line that connects them. Like so. And they're going to ask you, looking at the picture, what's the equation of the graph? So what I can do from here is I can identify the two pieces that I really need. I need the y-intercept and I need the slope. So where does it cross the y-axis at? 2. When I go from left to right, what's my slope? Which way would I have to move to go from this point to this point? Down how far? Down 2? And then how far to the right? I think I heard it. 3? So looking at that picture, I can come up with my equation. Y equals, what was the rise number? -2 over 3x. And then what's the y-intercept? +2. And done. That's what they're going to ask you to do for some of the problems. They're going to give you a picture. You have to come up with the equation. So you need two things. You need the y-intercept and you need the slope. And you can clearly see them on the pictures. When they give you a picture, it'll always cross nicely, so it won't be like you're trying to guess at what fraction it crosses at or anything like that. It'll always be right at a perfect ordered pair, so that way you can figure them out. Okay? They won't give you ones that say here's my, it crosses at 2.5. And then you have to guess, is that 2.5 or 2 1/4 or is that 2 1/3? You don't have to guess that part. It'll cross at a spot so that you'll be able to tell. Does that make sense? So that's the first type. They're going to give you a picture. The second type that they're going to do is they're going to have this. They're going to say m is equal to, Sierra, what's an m? Give me a slope. 4. Cameron, give me a y-intercept. 3. They're going to say, come up with the equation of the line given the slope and the y-intercept. So please, you guys, do not take very long for these problems because it's this simple. Y equals, what was the slope that we're using? 4x. And what's the y-intercept we're using? Plus 3. And circle it, done. It's that simple. That's all you have to do is input those pieces and we're done. Move on. Go. Make sense? Okay. Haley, give me an order pair.
2, 3.
2, 3. Do I have to write the No? Okay. Adele, give me a slope. 5/8. Oh, finally, someone with a fraction. Okay, a lot of times what happens when I ask you guys to make up your own questions, none of you ever pick a fraction for the slope. However, it can happen quite often. So, the next set of problems are going to look like this, where it gives you an ordered pair and it gives you a slope. I'm going to do this one 2 ways. I'm going to get the same answer both times. I'm just here to show you which way, or how to do both of them, and then it's up to you to decide which way you want to do it. Okay? So the first way that I'm going to use is I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. That's the first way, or first method I'm going to use. So the point that I asked for from Haley was an x, it was a y. The slope that I asked from Adele was the m. What's the only letter you don't know? You don't know the b. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in everything I know and solve for b. So what was the y-coordinate of Haley's point? 3. What's the slope that Adele gave me? 5/8. What was the x-coordinate that Haley gave me? 2. And you don't know b. So the first thing that I need to review with you, because it's been a while for some of you, when you take 5/8 times 2, you are multiplying a fraction. The 2 does not multiply to the 5 and the 8. If you need to, put the 2 over 1. And then the rule is you take the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. What's 5 times 2? 10. What's 8 times 1? 8. Does 10 over 8 reduce? Yeah. To what? 1 1/4 or 5/4. Now, for those of you who automatically run to putting this into mixed numbers or fraction or decimals, just leave it as an improper fraction. Algebra stuff is way easier to deal with when they're improper fractions as compared to anything else. Especially when we go to graph this stuff, if you were dealing with decimals and trying to do the slope, it ain't going to happen very nicely. Okay? So, leave them as impropers. Alright, now that we've multiplied and we reduced the fraction, what's my next step to solving for b? Subtract 5/4 to both sides. Alright, now we need to review again because some of you have forgotten how to subtract and add fractions. I have 3 minus 5/4. If I put the 3 over 1, what's the rule for adding and subtracting fractions? Same denominator. Which one's the denominator? The bottom. I have a 1 and a 4. What's the common denominator between 1 and 4? 4. So that means I have to multiply the first one by 4. What's 3 times 4? 12. So I end up with 12/4 minus 5/4. When you add and subtract fractions, and I see this not only out of high school kids, but also my college stuff, 12 minus 5 is? You do not do anything with the bottoms other than make it a 4 also. Do not tell me it's 7 over 0. Because that shows up not only with you guys, but it also shows up with my college kids. Same thing. Make the same mistake. I found the slope because that's what Adele gave me. And now I found the y-intercept. So my answer is y equals 5/8, because that was the slope that Adele gave us, x plus, and what did we get for the b? 7/4. That was using slope-intercept form. I used the y equals mx plus b. Now I'm going to go back to that screen here just for a second. When I did this, and yeah, it got a little messy because we had some fractions in play. If we didn't have fractions, it would have been a lot simpler. We would have not had such a big mess here. But one of the things that I want to point out to is the steps, the process. You multiplied here, right? And then we added or subtracted there. How many steps did it take to find b? 2. 2 steps. Some of you would, and maybe you didn't find the common denominator. Some of you might have even typed that in your calculator and got the answer of 7/4. Is that a possibility? Sure. Okay? But you multiplied and then you added or subtracted. That's the process every time. Once you insert all the numbers, you multiply the m and the x together, and then you add or subtract that answer to the y. Done. That's your b. Okay? Now, the other way. If I use the same point of 2, 3, and 5/8 was the slope, I had a teacher when I was your age tell me that when you are given a point and a slope, then you must use point slope. But I'm here to tell you now that you don't have to. This is only if you want to. So if I do that, y minus, what's the y coordinate of the point that Haley gave me? 3 equals, what's the slope that Adele gave me? 5/8. X minus, what was the x coordinate of the point that Haley gave me? 2. And from here, what you have to do is you have to do the distributive property. So what's 5/8 times x? What's 5/8 times -2? -10/8, which also reduces down to -5/4. Have you heard that number before in this problem? Yeah, weird. And then I got y minus 3. How do I get rid of the -3? Add 3. Now, look back at the other problem. Did you have a 3 minus 10/8? Three minus 10/8, or 5/4 if you reduced it. So which way is easier for you? Me personally, I don't care. Okay, whichever way that you end up coming up with that. Again, how I got the 7/4 is I took -10/8 plus 3. That's how I got the 7/4. We already did do the math for it. I didn't have to do it again. Whichever way seems easiest for you, please do it that way. If you want to use slope-intercept or if you want to use point-slope, I don't care. All right? Like I mentioned to you, I had my math teacher when I was growing up in the junior and high school. They always said, I want you to use point-slope if you're given a slope and a point. So that's the way I had to do it then. Okay? It doesn't matter to me which way you do it. It's totally up to you. The next type are going to look like this. Alana, give me an ordered pair. 2, 4. Mason, give me another ordered pair.
6, 5.
6, 5. If they give you 2 ordered pairs, they're not going to give you a slope. But one of the things I want to point out about the 2 equations that I gave you, the 2 formulas, was I gave you slope-intercept and I gave you point-slope. What's their common ground? Let me say them again. Slope-intercept, point-slope. Slope. They need a slope, which is what we did last Friday. How do you come up with an equation of a line when you're given 2 ordered pairs? You got to first find the slope. What was the slope formula the other day? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What's the second y's guy? 5 minus the first one? 4. Over 6 minus 2. What's 5 minus 4? 1. What's 6 minus 2? 4. Can 1/4 reduce? No. Now, as far as this goes, you have options now once you get to this stage. Now that you have a slope, you have two ordered pairs. You need to decide for you, do you like to A, use point slope, or B, use slope intercept? You guys decide. Which way do you want me to do it? Y equals mx plus b, or y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1? Which one? The B one? Okay. Now, the next thing I want you to do, Olivia, because you are the one that spoke out. Thank you. Do you want me to use the 0.24 or do you want me to use the 0.65? Okay. And just so that you know, if you would have picked the other one, it wouldn't have been wrong either. It doesn't matter which point you use. The reason why I say it doesn't matter is because remember back to your geometry days, how many points does it take to make a line? 2. How many points are on a line? Infinite. So as long as the point is on the line, it's going to work. So if you've got two ordered pairs, you know that that makes a line because if I connected them. So either way, either point, it will not matter when you plug it in, as long as you do the math right. So Olivia chose to use y equals mx plus b. She chose to use the 0.65, and then we have the slope here of 1/4. So now let's plug in what we know. What's the y-coordinate of the point she's using? 5. What's the slope that we got? 1/4. What's the x-coordinate of the point she's using? 6. And you don't know b. What is 1/4 times 6? 6 over 4, which reduces down to 3 halves. Do I add or subtract the 3 halves to both sides? Subtract it. So what is 5 minus 3 halves? What is it? 7 halves, 3 1/2, 3.5, right? Is everybody okay with how they got that? What?
Why did you, do you always use like the second y and the second x?
No. I could have put 2 and 4 in there if I wanted to. I use 6 and 5 is because Olivia picked 6 and 5. I didn't want to make the decision. So therefore, I could have put 4 and 2 in there. I could have put 4 in right here and 2 in right here, and I would have had the same answer coming out. This would have been a half, and this would have been a 4, and 4 minus a half is also 3 halves, or 7 halves. It doesn't matter, Trevor. Whatever one you want to plug in there, that's fine. It's going to come out with the same answer. So my final answer is y equals, what was the slope that you guys got? 1/4 x plus, what was the b? 7 halves. You guys did a great job. Awesome. One thing I'm going to warn you is, if they give you two ordered pairs like that, if you screw up the slope, guess what? Then the whole thing's wrong. Okay? Just so that you guys know this, and I told this to Connor when he was walking in today because he was helping me write my college test. Today, I'm giving my college class tonight a test over this exact same thing. The bad thing for them is that they're given two ordered pairs and they're asked to do like 6 different things on it. And if they screw up the slope, they've just screwed up the next 4 answers. So it's that important. Be very careful with figuring out the slope. Make sure you get all that right first. Okay? The last thing that's involved in here is the words parallel and perpendicular, which we talked about a few days ago. When it came to slopes, what was parallel again? Same. What was it when it was perpendicular? Good. So here's the way the problems look. And by the way, this is how I have my college one too. I want you to write an equation of a line that goes through the point. Marin, give me an order pair. 3, 4. And is parallel or perpendicular? Alex, which one do you want me to do? Parallel or perpendicular? Okay, so do you mind if I just use the symbol? Okay. And so an equation of a line that goes through the point 3, 4 and is perpendicular to the line, and well, we have to come up with a line. Do you want me to put it in y equals already, or do you want me to do it in a different format? Y equals already? Okay. So y equals, Shay, give me a number for a slope. Huh? 7? Hannah, would you give me a y-intercept for that? 3. Thank you. So again, the words will say this. Come up with the equation of a line that goes through the point 3, 4 and is perpendicular to the line y equals 7x plus 3. So, again, we need the slope first, just like we did in the last problem. What's the slope of the line that they give you? 7. That's not the perpendicular slope, though. As you guys told me, perpendicular meant opposite reciprocal. So what's the slope of the perpendicular if the original slope was 7? Negative 1 over 7. Good. Now am I going to set this up the same way we've done the other ones? Trevor, do you want me to use point slope or slope intercept form? Point slope this time? So y minus, what's the y coordinate, Trevor, that we're using? 4 equals, what's the slope, Brady, that we're using?
7 or negative 1.
Which one? Good. When we're trying to come up with the perpendicular one, we want the perpendicular slope. If it would have said parallel, Brady, then we would have used 7. Okay? Then we've got parentheses, x minus, Olivia in the back. Which one is the x coordinate? Yep. Awesome. So then when I set it up in this type of format, negative 1/7 times x is negative 1/7 x. Negative 1/7 times negative 3. 2 negatives make it a positive. And Aubrey, what's 1/7 times 3? Very good. 3/7. Then Jackson, how do I get y by itself? Add 4 is correct. So what is 4 plus 3/7, Miles? 4 and 3/7. Right. That's acceptable. Another way that you could have wrote that answer was if you would have taken and wrote it as an improper fraction. 4 and 3/7 should be 31/7, I believe. That would also work. Okay? What do you think? This is what you're going to be asked to do, is write it as an equation. No graphing today. Yes, Alex?
So if you just want to plug in 4 for y and 3 for x, you get your...
And then solve for b, like we did the other way?
Yeah,
The y coordinate was 4. The slope was negative 1/7. The x was 3. You don't know b. What's negative 1/7 times 3? How do I get rid of a minus 3/7? What's 4 plus 3/7? Or 31/7 or whatever you wanted to write. And then you have to rewrite it as y equals negative 1/7 x plus 4 and 3/7. The difference in really the equations, I like doing it this way. That's the way that I prefer to do it. The way Trevor told me to do that problem isn't wrong. The nice thing about the way when he does it is that it's in the formula already, so I don't have to rewrite it. I just don't like the extra steps because you have to distribute out. And most of the time, what I've seen over the past years, this distributive property that I'm demonstrating right there, 9 times out of 10, when you get it wrong as a student, it's because you didn't multiply right. You get negative 1/7, but then you get like 3 in the back. You forget to distribute to both things. So that's why I took that guesswork out of it and did it that way. So Alex, did that make sense? Okay. Any other questions as far as how the process works? So the first couple, you're going to be given the slope and an intercept. You just plug them in, done. Second ones, you're going to be given a point and a slope, and then it's up to you to decide which way you want to write them. Then they're going to give you a couple that says, find the ones that are parallel or perpendicular. And then the last couple are going to say, given these 2 ordered pairs, so you got to find the slope first, come up with the equation. So all of it's writing equations, none of it's graphing today, like we did yesterday. And it starts on page 101 to 103. It's 4 to 36 multiples of 4. So when I say multiples of 4, and we start with 4,
4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
there we go. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on.